It is time for our final session of the day, and afterwards we have a photo op, so do hang out and stay around for that. Now, our next panel discussion is on the topic of building a business case, articulating the value and ROI of tech initiatives to stakeholders. And our panelists include of Mohammed Hunain Khurshid, who is the Senior Executive of Finance and Strategy, Dr. Soha Imam, Strategic Consultant, Ministry of the Presidential Affairs, who is going to be our moderator for today, and George Kavalakis, who's the CEO of Blacktrack Consulting Limited and Hood Group Management.
Hello, everyone. Before we start that panel discussion, I'd like to ask you one very important question, and I want you to give me the first answer that will pop up in your head. If I asked you, what is the first thing that will come up to your mind if I asked you to invest in one appliance or a tool or a device that is technological at your own home? What is the first thing that will come up in your mind? You can write it down and raise up that paper. Money, yes. Only money. Okay, ease of use. Will it work? That's a very, very amazing perspective. Will it work? Usability. Is there a value? I love that, and this is where we're starting this. What did you write? How often am I going to use it? Yeah, and the durability and the sustainability of these things. Very good. So, one of the very interesting things, because we've got two amazing people from two different sectors. Hello? Check the next one. Put them loud. So we've got two amazing people that represents the two main industries that can answer that question. Someone from the finance industry and the other person is from the tech industry. So, and I'm going to go with, today in the technological landscape, a lot of changes are happening around us, and you sleep, next morning there's a new technology that everyone is talking about. But is it suitable for us to implement or not? So I'm going to start from the scratch, and I think that's a question that everyone would like to also ask. Why do we need to implement or invest in the technology? I know before we had the privilege to choose, you know what, I don't feel like I'm going to be using that. Right now, it's inevitable, and we need to. So why do we need to invest in technology? Please.
Thank you, Soha. I think one thing which keeps on happening, especially when we talk about new tech, is the challenge that everyone wants to barge onto the marketing play. Like a recent example of that, I think most of us have seen, was NFT.
Yes.
Right? It came up, everyone started adopting it. Name the company, EA, gaming. You talk about real estate. Everyone started coming up with NFT assets. And where do we stand today with that? Most of it is dead. EA's all investment on a couple of games where they were capitalizing on NFT is all gone. On the contrary, it damaged the stock price, damaged the product. So your question is very valuable in that regard, because I think what every executive has to do whenever there's a new technological adoption, we have to ask ourselves the exact same question. Would it last? Is it really adding value? Does it complement my business model, or does it go against my business model? Because one thing with technology is, because it's new and many people get excited about it, to be the first in adoption. What we do miss looking at the technology, especially in at least my observation would be, on the consumer end, I'm not a big fan generally when it comes on me as in technological user, no, but today most of the technological adoption has costed consumers more. So as a consumer, you're losing me. Another big example probably would be Netflix, right? We all know Netflix. Yes. What we Missed was the part that Netflix used to have these DVD rental component. Remember anyone? And someone in Netflix decided one day, guys, let's do one thing. Let's split the business, make it 2 applications, people gonna pay for that. And that's the day they launched a different application for renting DVDs. Few months later, what ends up happening? They lose 15 to 20%, if I'm not mistaken on the numbers, users. People stop paying altogether. So I think one thing from consumer perspective, user perspective, you really have to evaluate that as well if that's impacting the users. For in-house technology, the similar thing applies. You have to start looking at all of your stakeholders and involve them at an early stage of technological adoption instead of what's best for your own processes. That's from me.
George. Yep.
Yeah, I can comment a lot around that issue. Generally, yeah, because the main question that comes here is like, okay, we're talking about implementing and adopting technologies, but there are like layers till the final decision has been made. So in that part, it's like, okay, who knows about the technology that will be, discussed or to the higher management? Does the higher management, the shareholder, whomever, another company knows exactly what that technology does? How do we go there and showcase the pros and cons to that technology, what impact can have? And of course, if you don't know the product, if you don't know the technology, you cannot promote it. And then, if you cannot communicate it with the other people within the company, those people won't be using it. So the question about how often is valid, because this is part of the full circle in order to make this work.
So it's like shopping things. A lot of technological tools are there available in the market, and the most important question is, does it fit me? Do I really need this? It could be yes, but not now, maybe in the future. Yes, I need it, but my people are not yet ready to actually implement it. And I'm going to need that more time to actually enable them and empower them to use that technology. So pretty much, it is the goal. Yes, go ahead.
100%. The minute you mention something is it now? Whenever someone mentions that sentence about technology, the first thing comes to my mind is touchscreen. How many of us would have thought about touchscreen back in the 80s? And could you believe that's when it was invented? I was shocked the day I got this information. I was like, what? Who would be using touchscreen back in the 80s, right? And that was the purpose of touchscreen, so that you can experience the touch of the screen. Same thing goes to the iPad. A few years down the road, Surface, 2009 or 2010, that's the first time Microsoft came up with something called Surface. And it was not the Surface we use today. It was a table. The utility was proposed to be in the restaurants so that people can easily make their orders, right? What ended up happening with Surface? It died. All the investment, the R&D was gone. Why? Consumers were not ready. And the same Surface, 4 to 5 years later, made it short, launched by Apple. Here we go, iPhone.
Yep.
One of the most adopted software and device over the next 5 to 6 years from that point was iPhone. It even changed the industry landscape completely. So to your point that the timing of adopting a technology has to be precisely calculated, absolutely.
I can add to that, because I don't know how many of you are like tech people. The idea in organization is that the people that proposing new technologies are the tech people, or management if they feel what's trending, because many managers, like directors, come like, okay, everybody's using AI, let's do that. Oh, what? Let's use cloud computing. Let's go for digital transformation, the buzzwords. So at this point, there are too many hidden costs, too many things that might be overseen. So the case is, first of all, as you said, that it's a selling point. And besides that, okay, I'm going to sell my proposal to the shareholders to implement something. But I'm aware about all the hidden costs, or this might come as a liability to the company. So this is combined with the timing, how mature this is, if we have a clear picture of the technology that's going to be used, how it's going to be used, and if we're going to use it to the max or just a glimpse of it. So there are too many things to consider there.
So that will take me to a very important question, because I personally been through that, being a CEO for a company, and the tech people, they come to me and then we need to deploy this, we need to do that, and I go like, Some other people, they come to me with the same exact request, and I go, yes, absolutely, I'm going to go for this. But there was a huge difference in the way it was presented. And again, when you present to your boss, it's different than when you present to your colleagues. I'm looking for strategic things. The budget I'm paying for that technology to empower people. What is the losses if I did not deploy that technology? How am I going to stand in the market, and what's my market share going to be if I do that? I mean, so many factors are there actually. So do you believe in the power of communication when it comes to that aspect? Yep.
So I think this is the most of essence, communications. You have to have the selling. We become sellers. We sell our proposal to higher management. So we need to be there, know how to articulate our proposal, and of course, this is the point that you need as a CEO to know the return on investment. Okay, to identify what's going on. Okay, you'll put that amount of money, but this will help us in these areas of our organization. But if we don't do it, this might will have a cost to ourselves, I don't know, let's say in terms of cybersecurity, legal fees later on, and there are a lot of things that can, cover the whole idea for a return on investment.
If I may pause you here for a second. So before you come to present the idea for your boss, what is the homework that you do? You've heard of a technology. Okay, you want to present it to your boss.
Yeah, first of all, I'm studying. I'm studying the proposal. I'm studying the pros, the cons, and of course, I'm trying to identify why should I do that? Why should I propose that? Is it because this will help me to gain a better role in the company, or just to help the company itself? So because we will have the politics themselves in the equation. But generally, you need to be prepared to hear questions from shareholders, from higher management, so you need to have the answers. So at that point, I remember, I'm from Greece, and after 2012 that the financial crisis started, I had I was working as a chief information officer for a medical company, and I had some tech providers coming to me in order to sell me cloud solutions, Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, etc. I'm like, wow, I know the technologies. They are really helpful. You can scale up, scale down. That means that depending on the needs of the company, you can reduce your budget. You can have budget cuts because the performance is not what you need, so you can scale down.
So, Haneen, I'm sorry.
I have to add something.
Yeah.
But at some point, I'm like, okay, during the financial crisis, maybe my company next month won't be able to pay. What's going to be done? And they were like, oh, Microsoft will stop the services. Well, so I cannot do it. Simple question, like that. If I won't pay for a day or for a week, what's going to happen? Switch off. And then the project stops there. I didn't even go to the higher management to discuss it.
Very true. Yeah, very true. I have to agree with you on that point. I mean, You've noticed that we've called it investment. We do not call it a transaction or a purchase. Why do we think it's an investment or future investment?
See, the thing is, whenever you are talking about any tech, by and large, the return is much long term. You invest today and you may not see immediate results. And the thing is, again, I'm a big believer on the one thing that people relate to what they can see, and I'm probably going to bring another example to that account. One thing which happened over the years is, the tire pressure monitors. The initial investment in R&D, nobody was ready to do that. It wasn't one company which started, but over the years, we today only have 3 suppliers across the globe. And back in the days when someone was putting up a proposal to invest in that R&D, I was like, what people gonna use it for? Fast forward 30 years down the lane, we have Tesla. And most of people know Tesla as an EV company. You're talking about the batteries and whatnot. That's more of the sales pitch, I would say, coming back to our communication thing. What Tesla really is going to be a data company. Today, having their vehicles driven around the countries and the states and the driveways, they have the most accurate, detailed imaging of every place. The accident rate, how you're gonna plan your traffic, how would you actually adjust your road networks. All that data collection is going to help in those planning. So I have been involved in city planning for a couple of years now, and having access to such data is massive. So again, investment in technology, some of those things you may not foresee, right? So, but having the buy-in from your C-suite or from your boss is crucial. I would like to come back to the communication if you don't mind, please.
Yeah, please, please.
Thank you. See, when it comes to communication, we usually think about communication as have one direction only. To me, I believe communication is always 4-directional. How is that? You have something downward communication where you actually communicate to your team. You have something called upward communication, which is actually to your bosses all the way to the boards and investors. You have something which is on the parallel communication where you are actually communicating to your peers, especially running a transaction or investment in the tech side. It's not gonna happen on your own, whether you're a tech guy, a finance guy, or a marketing guy asking for anything, because you need all the 3 to 4 components of the business support services, right? And here comes the 4th communication, which is the most crucial and most ignored most of the time, and that's about your customers and consumers.
Yeah, I'm adding to this point, because when it comes to communication, getting people connected to what you're doing, enabling them to understand why we're doing this and what's in it for them are just going to get them on board. So definitely you're not going to find someone opposing to this idea, or, because I do remember when there were no laptops and everything was handwritten, and then suddenly they wanted to adopt the computers for everything, and I was resisting there. It's easier because I remember long ago when I used to search for the letters on the keyboard, whereas it was funny, and it took me hours, and it took me actually months.
It's the eagle technique.
Exactly. Tick, tick, tick. It was funny. So it is important to have people on board, and it's very important to have that transparency when you talk to people. So it's not because I'm the manager and I see that this is fit. This is where people actually are not going to support you, and they're going to create that kind of terrible environment within the organization. That's going to take me towards a very important question, George. How can we engage all the stakeholders that we're dealing with when we adopt a new technology?
Well, this is the key. In order to put everyone aboard, you need to speak their language. You need to sell it, or better, you need to be able to translate it to their language. The tech people should talk to management terms to management, financial terms with economic department, etc. So it's very crucial to know how to get our knowledge to them to understand, and understand in their own terms how they can jump in on board, be on board, and then also support the whole thing, because the resistance to change, especially in technology, it's huge. Nobody's like willing to change from one to the other. I have faced it like my whole career. And people, especially I cannot say illiterate people, tech illiterate people, but people that are not that some tech aware, these people are like, they know to do 1, 2, 3, and that's it. So you need to convince them that what you're gonna do, it's investment, they're gonna help them, and the whole proposal is going to help the whole company to move forward. And this is also being translated in numbers, in sales, in better environment within the company. Everything can be measured in terms of technology.
Would you like to add here?
I'll just like to add on, build on the resistance, especially. There were days in my early career where I hated resistance. Over the year, I started liking it. I like the dance between resistance and the buy-in. I think one thing which you asked earlier is the return on investment. The best cases you can put forward for any tech buy-in would be through resistance and not through direct buy-in, because what ends up happening when people resist to what you're proposing, that's exactly the time when you start thinking more about it, where it can add more value. You start talking to yourself and to your colleagues and the people around you, asking for intrinsic value addition into the company, into the consumer experience, your processes within the staff, or how you can actually optimize the technology itself. And it's the resistance which actually identifies more value than your own self, because we somehow end up developing tunnel vision when it's our idea. And when people resist to that, we start breaking those walls and coming up with new objectives which help us to buy in.
Very good. So there are some challenges and obstacles and showstoppers when we adopt technologies. And you just mentioned the resistance from the people applying this technology. What do you think other challenges that we might face in that phase, the deployment phase? The question is for both of you.
See, thank you. I think resistance can be so many verticals, right? Because people, again, just the people segment, if we're talking about, they have to learn something new to begin with. That's a resistance. They have to sign off financially. That would create a resistance. A sales team, they have to go out and make the customers adopt it. I mean, you're talking about asking your marketing director or the sales director to change their program for the next 12 months. That's not an easy ask. Come on, the guy just got his KPIs approved. He planned it for 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah.
So that's on the people side. Coming down to financial side, quantifying the objectives into numbers, sometimes that could be very challenging, very challenging. When I remember we were doing some BI adoption at a group scale, and many of the operating companies were still not on the same ERP. Now, what I'm really asking is 30 entities all to move to one ERP, integrate that, and let me have a dashboard. Imagine how you can tell that to your board that, you know what, this 30 million real investment is going to pay off over the next 3 years. Like, what the hell are you know?
So, I'm going to add to that. So, many cases, an investment like that might not work well. So, one question that comes in mind and is like, when the management comes like, can we roll back? Okay, it didn't work as we liked, or a new regulation came in place, like GDPR, whatever that needs the data to be protected with a different way. So can we roll back? Can we unlock from this provider and go to somewhere else? So lately in technology, because initially when the whole thing with computing started, its provider, its company like Microsoft, Apple, whatever, they were like, they wanted to lock you on them. But a business wants to be independent. If one solution doesn't work, needs to change something else. So rolling back is something that last years has come. We have hybrid solutions. We can use like different cloud components, different cloud services, and also on-premises connectivity and stuff like that. So one of the challenges is that if we don't like it, if we can turn back to our initial solution.
Well, I was really wondering how normally we measure the success or the performance or the return on investment in every process we do, deploying any kind of policy, procedure, process. And now when it comes to technology, how long does it take to actually measure that success or failure? And is there a certain tool or a framework or a matrix that we actually need to go by?
Where there are a lot of tools, a framework that you can measure the combination of technology and business. Generally, everything can be measured because everything starts from the timing, how fast you can do it. So time is in essence, time is money. So this is being translated into money. And of course, in all the procedures that can help a company go make it faster or not. And you know, it's a domino effect that starts like from one change of environment, like a new system, to the consumer, you know, all the levels. I remember at some point, a couple of years back, we changed like one SQL server to a new one, a new system, you know, better hardware. And I remember like trying to stress test the whole thing. And I remember that the initial system, let's say, we ran a query that had run like for 55 minutes, and the new system ran it in 1 second. 1 second, 55 minutes in 1 second. We're like, okay, we had a very old system, and we had it to change a lot years back. And when we made that change, everybody started being happy because they weren't frustrated, you know, clicking a button and just waiting like that. Click results, and then at the same time they can give the answers to the phone, to the other client, to the partner, or the consumer, whatever. So this is a combination of things that can provide us with numbers to identify if it's better or not. But generally, it's identifiable, and there are a couple of things that we can do in order to have specific measures. If we like specifically for the tech, or generally the combination of technology and business.
There's one question that someone asked me before I actually go for this panel, and I'm going to address that to you, Hanain. The question was, do we have to measure the ROI only in dollar sign, or in a company positioning, or an enhancement in a certain process? I mean, what are the elements or the factors that we go like, this is a successful process?
So, thank you for the question. Pretty easy, right? It's difficult to answer this in a simple setting, but I would put something like this together.
I mean, do we have to relate it again to the company's vision or the purpose of applying that? Because initially I might apply it just because I want more productivity, or I want to save money, or I want to fire some people, or I want to reduce certain costs. I mean, is this how we measure the return on investment in this case when deploying or adopting technology?
See, a simple answer to the question that does it have to be in dollar value? No, it doesn't. Why? Because there are so many impacts which tech is generating today or having directly on consumer, on the company staff, on your own internal environment, which cannot be directly translated to your dollar value. How do you measure that? It's key thing you have to plan at a very early proposal stage, and it keeps on evolving until you actually roll out, and by that time you know exactly what sort of KPIs should be touched. Why? Because even at the planning stage you cannot set your KPIs on stone. There would be so many things which would be dollar value, which would be customer ease of access, which results in bigger market share, customer footfall, like websites to begin with, right? Before the websites, we had traffic to our stores, which was probably 10%, 15% of the traffic we are getting on the website. It's like, that's massive. Now, How do you put that a dollar value to that? I mean, maybe you can translate into a capture rate, but capture rate is a different tech you're talking about, right? Because capture rate would be how good is my marketing campaigns on digital environment. It has nothing to do with website rollout, right? How good is the design? How is the color palette? How is the imagery? All those things, again, have to be measured separately, but I would say that this is something everyone should be very mindful at a planning stage of adopting any technology, and that's where you have to have very strong collaborations.
But collectively, they go under the umbrella of the ROI.
Collectively,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
they do, because at the end of the day, if I'm heading any finance function, right, and George is like, okay, this is tech we have to adopt, then I have to involve the marketing guy that, okay, what you have to ask from me or from the CEO, how much money you would need to adopt your marketing strategy. Then I have to involve the salespeople, how much capture rate you will have from the funnel this guy is generating, going back to the operations guy, asking him as like, what's going on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Makes
all the
sense.
circle has to connect.
Thank you very much for the answer. George, I can see that you can't wait. You would like to add
Yeah,
something.
I wanted to add that something that's not measurable. It's the environment, the people, the mental health of the people. Like as I told you earlier, that when a system takes too long to work or doesn't work, they're getting frustrated, and this is a domino effect.
Yep.
Okay, so there's when I do a ROI analysis in terms of technology, I always put the people in the picture. So how will they react if things are being automated or better, or everybody's a happy family within the company, you know, we're having a great time, okay, this works, so we're happy. Of course, the resistance is still there because, as we initially discussed, the focus and the challenge is to overcome the people that resist, okay? And if they're happy, the people that are resisting to change, if they're starting being happy, everybody will be happy, okay?
That's amazing. That's a very good answer. So I'm going to wrap up with the last question, and I'm going to leave the floor for other questions from the participant. So for Haneen, I'm going to ask you to advise everyone who is investing, any corporation or any owner or CEO or whoever is responsible for advancement, to give them 3 advice. Why do they have to do that? And why do they have to do it now? And for George, I want you to think of 3 horror points if they did not deploy technology and keep up with the trending ecosystem, what is going to happen to them? And I'm starting with Haneen.
Okay, if I have to give advice, which I think I'm not very much in the space to give advices, I need more advices. The first thing I would say, be open and listening to what your leadership or your directors or your staff is bringing up to you, and don't judge it at the face value. If you don't get it, keep asking them to come back to you, maybe with a different view or more clarifications. Second advice would be, I think a lot of people these days, especially leaders, are kind of jumping the board with the media and the trendiness. Maybe stay away from that, because that costs people a lot of money and a lot of hassle. I mean, come on, you're already busy, and maybe detaching yourself from the trends from time to time is important. And thirdly is that looking at the returns, you probably should involve everyone and be hyper communicative, which most leaders don't really like these days. I understand we all are busy, but getting everyone engaged, you don't know who's going to bring what value. Sometimes a perspective shared by one of the team member which is not his or her expertise, you will shock you how much value that can add. Thank you.
These are very precious advices. Thank you very much. And if you want to scare someone from not keeping up,
it's easy for me. I'm in tech, I'm in cybersecurity, everything. I face this question like with most of my clients. First of all, I think most of you have heard about many cybersecurity attacks, many breaches. So one of the things that many companies haven't done yet is like harden their systems. You know, cyber security right now it's like first one priority in every company, in no matter what the market. So if you don't go there to try to harden your system, to try to defend, the loss will be huge, if not already, if they don't have any database already. That's one. So you need to secure your systems, and securing a system is not only just buying something, a solution, being like that. Security means like having a department working about that, putting the solutions in place, and being up to date. It's not something that we just buy and put it in work. There are a lot of things that needs to be done to be secure. So if you're not doing it, forget it. It's a matter of time when we'll be hacked. So simple. Number two, I don't think that anyone right now is not in the cloud yet, or hybrid, or whatever. Companies that still on premise are back. It's like a decade back. So if you're not there yet, go there. The solutions and the features that you get are much, much better than we used to be, because cloud computing is like when we had our systems on premise, we used to have like a castle, and we're trying to protect the castle, and right now everything is on the cloud. So everything is flying all around, and we're trying to protect the identity, but the features that we have right now, it's, imagine, I'm in Dubai, I'm working like I'm at my office. People that need a VPN to connect to their office struggle at some points because they have problems connecting. The third thing is automation. Here comes AI, machine learning. Automation solutions can save us a lot of time, a lot of time. So if you're not there, even in one of those three things that I told you, you're forgotten, to start your engine, your back. So you need to go forward and cover these needs. These are the needs, and so if someone is not there, has to run.
I think you scared them enough, George. Thank you very much. Your insights and your input has been really rich for this panel. And I'll leave that for the audience. If you have any question about the investment process within the technological landscape, we're here to respond, or you can catch us just right after outside in the break hall. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much.